Bro-type diets have the highest track record of success of anything that has ever been done. Hey, everybody, I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today. And when you say this really upsets a lot of people, particularly people who are trying to market different types of fad diets and ideas, simply because this works. It's worked for decades, and when you look at it and you compare it to any other style of diet, nothing else that people have done has the same track record of success of the simple idea of the bro diet. Now, am I saying you have to follow the exact thing of chicken, rice, and broccoli, or chicken, rice, and vegetables? Okay? No, I'm not saying you have to do that exact thing. Right? It could be any other lean protein. My God, you could even do it mostly plant-based and do tofu. But it could be fish. It could be really lean steak. Whatever it happens to be, turkey. Rice could be substituted for any low-fat, starchy carbohydrate. It could be potatoes. It could be sweet potatoes. It could be oats. And the broccoli could be pretty much any type of vegetable. You start throwing in fat-free dairy of any type in there, and you pretty much have what you need. And people will argue about this, but it kind of shows the idea that lower fat, carbon, protein-based diets of whole foods make fat loss really easy. They make building a lean physique really easy. And it's for a number of reasons. Partially it's the simplicity. It's also the portion control. It's also the appetite control. It's also that this sort of diet makes it extremely difficult to gain any body fat. In other words, when people want to lean bulk, they do this sort of diet. In fact, what you find when people don't bulk fast enough, they have to start adding fat into there. It's where you saw stuff like the vertical diet, because quite frankly, with no fat in the diet, almost all of your gains are going to be muscle tissue. And for people who are trying to bulk up, the scale goes up so slow that they feel like they're not making progress, or they can't get to the sort of body weights they want to get to. But for people who are chasing lean gains, or people who are trying to lose body fat, that's perfect. To have a diet that is structured in such a way that it's almost impossible for lifters to gain much weight on it when force feeding. You see the point there? It's why it's so successful. Because again, controls body fat. Why? Because these sort of diets are very low in fat. Number one, all the fat we have on our body, 99% of it, according to all available research at this point, comes from fat that you ate. Okay? So if you're eating an extremely low-fat diet, it is very difficult to put fat on. Now, people can still lose fat on a higher fat diet because, again, it's not about storage. It's about what are we burning through. But fat is the most calorically dense thing we can eat. So it actually is fairly easy to overeat. Refined sugars are next behind that, of course. But fat is the easiest thing to overeat. So when you look at this, it's like, okay, so the diet inherently limits fat gain, this sort of dieting. All right, because I noticed I said chicken, and we start with a lean protein source. They're high in protein. What does protein do for us? Helps control body composition better. It preserves muscle when we're losing weight. It speeds up energy turnover because protein has a higher thermic effect and changes nutrient partitioning. Number 3, helps us gain muscle. So all of these diets tend to be very high in protein. When you're eating a very, very high protein diet, it makes lean gains easier, and it makes losing body fat while preserving muscle easier. Because again, protein, muscle sparing, helps suppress appetite, has a higher thermic effect. So you actually burn more calories on the calories out equation. So it shifts your calories in, calories out. All right, the same thing when we start talking about getting most of our calories then from starchy carbohydrates. Some carbs are easy to overeat. Starchy carbs are not. It is actually very difficult to overeat whole foods. It can be done with white rice. So again, that's why many people choose to bulk on white rice for these sort of diets. But brown rice, sweet potatoes, oats, quinoa, all these bro foods, these whole grain type foods, or these high satiety tubers, it's extremely hard to overeat. But they also make for the best training fuel. All right, so any of this sort of diet's going to keep you full. So it could be, chicken or fish or tofu and your brown rice, or it could be steak and sweet potatoes, whatever combinations you want. These sort of diets have the best partitioning of biasing towards muscle tissue and biasing away from fat tissue while controlling appetite You tend to be very full on these sort of diets. You tend to have very stable energy levels because everything is slow release foods, right? Blood sugar tends to fluctuate less. Energy is higher. So again, if we're trying to maintain energy out, we're going to tend to get that from this. Also, the same thing, whole foods tend to have higher thermic effects. They take actual calories to break down, digest, and assimilate more than more processed foods. Okay? Now, here's where the other big kicker is, portion control. Because if you're eating this sort of diet and you're eating, say, you're shooting for a given amount of protein, it makes, for some people don't even bother to count calories. They just adjust the rice or the sweet potatoes. And it works. Not because calories don't matter, but because it makes portion control easier. All right, let's say you're doing this sort of diet and you're getting a large amount of protein. You're shooting for a certain range of protein. That's kind of a fixed calorie. Plus, we know that adding more protein calories doesn't necessarily create a calorie surplus. This has been found in protein overfeeding studies due to the thermic nature of protein. All right? So that leaves you really with just what's going to change, fat and carbohydrate. So this sort of diets are very low in fat. The fat intake is negligible. You're probably eating maybe 100 calories of fat on most of these type of diets. In some cases, a little more if your calories are really high. As far as consistent portion control, the fat is insignificant. So what determines how many calories you eat on this sort of diet? How much rice or oats you eat. We can measure those things. They're easily measured. This allows for a great deal of consistency. So if you were maintaining weight on this sort of diet, I eat roughly this much meat and protein shakes or lean protein every day. I've been throwing all these vegetables in since I eat a ton of them. I don't really count the calories. But when I eat 4 cups of the rice every day, my weight maintains or I gain weight slowly. So all you do is take a cup of rice out. That's why these sort of diets are foolproof. Because if you've been maintaining weight, all you do is subtract half a cup of your rice or your oats every day. Or 1 cup of them. Well, half a cup of brown rice, dry, or white rice, probably about 300 calories. Well, for a lot of people, that's a 10% deficit if they were maintaining. Right? Take a full cup out. Let's say you've been maintaining on 4 cups of rice a day, and that's your biggest calories are coming from the rice. Or, when you've been eating X amount of the sweet potatoes you've been weighing out. Or the oats. You simply remove a portion of it equal to about 500 calories. Guess what? Without really tracking the calories that closely, because these are all easily measured foods, all of a sudden you're in a calorie deficit and losing fat. You have easy portion control because all your calories are coming from something that's easily measured and consistent day to day. So again, consistent intake for bulking or cutting or recomposition are easy mode. It's like a cheat code. Combine that with really high protein intakes. These sort of diets have an amazing track record of success in the bodybuilding and physique world, and quite frankly, for anyone who just wants to be fit. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.